Today on Ultima Gaming Live, we explore like never before in The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Then we try to fill the Banjo-Kazooie void with Yooka-Laylee. And finally, you're telling me this is the best they could do? We've got Mass Effect Andromeda. It's good to be back. Game on! And now, here's your hosts, two people completely losing their minds. It's Hunter Ginn and Cass Black.
But you can't lose what you never had. Hello and welcome to Ultima Gaming Live. On today's episode, we've got The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild.
And we have Yooka-Laylee, as well as Mass Effect Andromeda.
Yeah, and those are great and all, but we've got The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. That's the most important one, obviously. I'm really excited.
Me too.
Yeah, so, without further ado, here's our review for Breath of the Wild.
It's not uncommon for a console to have that one video game that you just have to have, even if you couldn't care less about the rest of the software the system has to offer. And for many Switch owners, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is just that. But regardless of your opinion on Nintendo and their games, there's no denying that Breath of the Wild is a phenomenal title. What's so unique about Breath of the Wild is it throws everything we know about Zelda gameplay out the window, introducing an entirely new playstyle, difficulty, and interactivity with the world, all while having a familiar feeling, which allows for both Zelda fans of old as well as newcomers to the series to enjoy. Apart from the first few minutes of the game, there's no hand-holding here. The world is yours to explore, and I don't just mean small patches of land here and there. If you can see it, you can reach it. From the tallest of mountains to the lowest of valleys, nothing is off limits for exploration. Another major change for the Zelda franchise is the weapon system. In Breath of the Wild, you aren't simply handed one sword to get you through your adventure. Instead, you'll grab a stick to use first, then maybe a club or an axe. Eventually you might be lucky and grab a sword, but it'll only last for a few strikes before breaking. That's right, the weapons in Breath of the Wild, while plentiful, also tend to be quite fragile. As a result, you'll want to stock up on any weapons or blunt objects you can find, as you'll find yourself busting your own weapon while trying to bust some heads. Even bows aren't immune to snapping in half from too many uses, and shields will wear down after taking a few hits. Speaking of shields, you'll be collecting those as well, since many of them will break often. However, shields aren't your only means of protection against the forces of evil. Every good hero needs some armor, right? In Breath of the Wild, you can give Link a wide assortment of armor to choose from. Various pieces of armor will change not only the amount of defense Link has, but also how much he'll be able to stand up against hot or cold climates. Yes, something as simple as weather has gone through a change in Breath of the Wild. Link is no stranger to traveling up volcanoes or icy mountains, but this time around, without the proper gear, he'll die from heat stroke or be frozen to death before he gets the chance to make it to his destination. Of course, with all this land to explore and weapons to find, it's easy to see that one of the biggest changes overall is the amount of freedom the game has to offer. Unlike previous Zelda titles, there's no true right or wrong order to things. In fact, you don't even have to check everything off the list. If you want to head straight for the final boss, you have that option. I wouldn't recommend it, but it's still an option for those brave souls. While the overall story is the same, where Link must rescue the princess, there's a wide array of plot points to uncover. While the most important pieces will be found by simply completing the dungeons in the game, there's a lot of backstory that can be uncovered in hidden areas throughout Hyrule. All in all, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is not only a fantastic entry in the Zelda series, but an incredible new direction for it altogether. This could perhaps be the greatest Zelda title of all time, and to have it as a launch title for a new console is a very smart move on Nintendo's part. Hopefully, future Zelda titles will take a note from Breath of the Wild, and we'll see Link begin to do even more new things we used to only dream about. A 5 out of 5.
So, that was our review for The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. A fantastic entry in the Zelda franchise. Cass, wouldn't you agree?
No, I liked it. It was good.
Favorite Zelda of all time?
Certainly not.
No?
But it was definitely up there.
It's up there. That's good enough. Up next, we've got a chameleon and a bat causing chaos in Yooka-Laylee. Playtonic Games has given us a spiritual successor to Banjo-Kazooie, and fans have been very divided on whether or not it meets its expectations. Here's our review.
It's been over a decade since 3D collectathon platformers have reigned supreme in the video game industry. but Yooka is here to scratch that familiar feeling of nostalgia for gamers from the 90s. Thanks to Playtonic Games, a studio made up of former Banjo-Kazooie developers, Yooka is Banjo-Kazooie in almost everything but name. Yooka looks, feels, controls, and sounds just like the Bear and Bird duo, except this time it's Chameleon and Bat. And while that sounds like a good thing for the most part, it really isn't. Everything about the game lacks a nice polish. The classic Rareware humor, witty dialogue, and wonderful music tracks just don't seem to be present. Seriously, you can probably hum a Banjo-Kazooie track to this day, but I bet you don't remember a track from this game. All of the characters you meet aren't too memorable, but do have distinct personalities. If you can slap googly eyes on it, it's probably a character in Yooka. My favorite character in the game was Trouser. Yes, he's a snake who sells you new abilities. A trouser snake. I'll let you figure that one out. Other than the controls, sound, and characters not being too lovable, there were a few odd design choices about the game. In Yooka, players can enter a world, and once they collect a certain number of pages, they can choose to expand the world and explore further. The problem with this is that the unexpanded versions of these worlds aren't always clearly defined. For example, you'll waste time climbing a mountain only to find there's nothing up there. But that's only because the world wasn't expanded, which you wouldn't know your first time playing because you've never expanded a world before. The unskippable cutscenes were also annoying from time to time, as was the lack of ability to restart minigames if you messed up early on. If there's one thing that Playtonic could have left in the 90s, it'd have to be the camera. On more than one occasion, I found myself wrestling with the camera angles, trying to gauge how far I should jump, or trying to see what was around the corner. Even with these issues, Yooka is still an enjoyable title that fans of any 90s platformer, especially Banjo-Kazooie, will enjoy. Playtonic has even promised updates for the game that addresses some of these issues mentioned in this review. But for now, if you don't have nostalgia glasses or didn't enjoy Banjo-Kazooie at all as a kid, you'll probably want to pass on the Chameleon and Bat. But if you're hoping to scratch an itch you've had for something akin to a PS1 or N64 classic, then you'll be in for a small treat. A 3 out of 5.
So that was our review for Yooka. I thought it was okay. Cass, what did you think?
I hated it.
You hated it?
Absolutely.
Like how much hate are we talking? Just like, you hated it? Hated it.
I absolutely hate it.
You don't like the little cute animals?
Most obnoxious things on the planet. I don't like
that's what you sound
pages with their eyeballs.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't like anything about it. Gameplay, nothing.
That's a shame. Anyway, VGX7's own David Stewart wrote the review for Mass Effect Andromeda, and he wasn't too happy with that title either. So, without further ado, here's the review for Mass Effect Andromeda.
Sorry, my face is tired from dealing with everything. And right now, I just want to know what happened with Alec.
In 2007, BioWare's intergalactic RPG Mass Effect warped onto the gaming space, bringing with it a blockbuster trilogy which enticed us with the prospect of player choice that would shape the greater narrative, culminating with a memorable, debated, and protested finale. 10 years later, a new Mass Effect arrives among the systems, bringing with it a new narrative and a fresh array of debated and contested problems all its own. Mass Effect Andromeda presents a new protagonist in the form of twin siblings Scott and Sarah Ryder, and their endeavors in the Andromeda Galaxy. As the previous Mass Effect games allowed, you're able to customize the appearance for both characters. However, the same lackluster creation suite returns without any significant upgrades. The preset facial options which serve as clay for you to mold are mostly generic and unattractive. Options are quite sparse, considering the massive amounts of options and almost limitless freedom that games such as Saints Row, Fallout 4, or Skyrim offer. Initiating the story, Ryder awakens from cryosleep aboard the Ark Hyperion, arriving in the Andromeda Galaxy. Shortly after arrival in this uncharted system, the feces rapidly hits the FTL drives. In a last-ditch effort to make landfall on a new homeworld, you don your helmet and recover a firearm. Your role as Pathfinder begins as the game makes quick work of revealing to you that your journey into the unknown wasn't what the brochures made it out to be.
You saved my life. Yeah, at least we know it's what. The brochures were light on aliens who want to shoot your head off.
The gameplay feels refined and intuitive. Lining up shots and unleashing a barrage of ordnance feels rewarding and satisfying, while the use of skill powers make you feel like an unstoppable force. They are not only essential to your loadout, but are a blast to unleash. AI enemies will move around, take cover, charge, or flank you during firefights, often keeping you on your toes and keeping you moving throughout the battle. Intense firefights, utilization of the cover system is vital. While in cover, Ryder will duck down or stand up depending on the height of the surface you're standing against. You can also blind fire from cover. Combat does suffer from its share of bugs, as I've experienced invisible enemies and enemies that are stuck in the geometry of the world's topography or structures. While on foot, Ryder can experience difficulty in navigating objects and terrain within the world. Movement in Andromeda sees new additions with the jump jet and evasive dash. Also new to Andromeda is the ability to hover. Lasting for a short time, hovering allows you to maintain altitude while unleashing attacks. Leveling up grants you points to invest in your choice of skills in the combat, biotic, or tech tiers. These tiers are akin to the options listed within the 6 different classes in previous Mass Effect games. However, many elements of the previous game's classes are combined in these tiers with additional options. New to Andromeda are profiles. Profiles offer you bonuses to specific skills that you have invested in, and complement varying builds. Unfortunately, switching between weapons and favorites is a clunky inconvenience, as bringing up the weapons or favorites wheel pauses the action. Considering the fluid, enjoyable combat, this break in gameplay ruins the flow of the experience. After your first small steps for the initiative and a giant leap from the frying pan into the fire, you rendezvous at the Nexus. The Nexus is the initiative's fledgling spaceport, which is strikingly similar to the Milky Way's Citadel. While on shore leave, you acquire your own ship, the Tempest. Aboard the Tempest, I've experienced peculiar anomalies. Proceeding from room to room, characters will warp into existence, then swiftly walk to whatever station the game has predetermined them to monitor. It gives the sensation that these characters aren't existing on the ship. Instead, the game determines when Ryder enters the room and populates it from there. As you journey the galaxy, your journal logs and updates you of any new missions acquired. However, the interface can make quest tracking troublesome. Missions and objectives are split into separate subcategories, often making it difficult to find and track your objectives. Some quests don't give you map markers for your destination. Some side quests have you jumping across the galaxy for nothing more than a quick conversation with a character before coming to an underwhelming conclusion. Yet most critical missions and poignant side quests are a memorable experience, be it the ensuing firefights or interactions with those on your team. Of noteworthy critique is Andromeda's high-profile, bizarre character facial animations and expressions. Characters either look bewildered or goofy, failing to show any real emotion. During conversations, characters move or stand awkwardly. Oftentimes, characters hardly move at all, seemingly giving you the sensation that they're nothing more than a head on a stick. Other animations look to be rehashed from the original trilogy of games. Rendering and textures of these characters resemble moldy plasticine, lacking any detail or refinement. Some of the rendering looks recycled from the first Mass Effect. Follicle elements are undefined, while texture details on the faces, clothing, and armor load slowly, offering a pixelated roughness until the game finally remembers to add the additional detail. Graphical and object issues linger throughout the game. Whether on a planet or on the Tempest, graphical elements can appear undefined and out of focus before slowly rendering the finer details. Object and texture pop-in are a normality. Menu screens load unnecessarily slow, while stutters and frame rate or momentary screen freezes are intermittent. Endeavoring to plot a course into new, uncharted territory, Mass Effect Andromeda falls short of its destination. Wrought with technical issues and shortcomings, establishing a presence in the galaxy has not come without a little turbulence. A 2.
This better be rock bottom.
Out of 5.
Well, Cass is too busy crying because she was devastated by the review of Mass Effect Andromeda and the disappointment that she suffered. I want to thank you guys for watching Ultima Gaming Live. You can be sure to check us out at www.vgx7tv.com. Check us out on the forums. We got Facebook. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe on YouTube, and we'll see you guys next week. Thank you for watching Ultima Gaming Live. Bye-bye.